Hi, we're going to talk about discrete um, functions, which basically deals with individual points. Now, when we talk about continuous, we have done that before, and that's where we have a solid line. So discrete are going to be individual points. So right here, I'm just going to write individual or isolated points. So individual points. All right, so on the table here, on the first one, the DR means domain and range. So you remember that the domain represents the X values and the range represents the Y values. So also when we're listing these, we don't write the repeated values down again. So we only write it down one time. And also write these in order from least to greatest. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the range would be 3, 5, and 7. Okay, and then over here on the other one, the set of points, the range, which is your, again, the range is your Y value. So that would be 0, 1, 2, and 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then the range, let's see, X value would be -3, -1, and 1. On the map is actually a little bit easier. You can see it, especially in order from least to greatest. So this would be -1, 2, 4, and 7. And then the range, which is your Y, would be 3, 6, and 9. On the equation, it says find the range of the given equation when the domain is -5, 0, and 5. So you can put this in your calculator. 3x squared minus 1. You can put that in like your home screen and put -5, 0, and 5 in place of x. Square it, multiply by 3, subtract 1. Or you could even graph this and then go to your table. And then you could just look to see when your x's are -5, 0, and 5, what's your range value. So it really makes no difference. I'm just going to show you since it's by hand here. So 3 times -5 squared minus 1. So -5 squared, that's -5 times -5 is 25. 25 times 3 is 75. 75 minus 1 is 74. Now then, with a +5, you're going to get the same answer. Because whether you're squaring a -5 or squaring a +5, it's still going to give you 25. So that will be 74. Now if you put a 0 in, so 3 times 0 squared minus 1. 0 squared is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 minus 1 is -1. So your answer here, I'm going to make my little braces, is -1, 74. All right, let's take a look at the graphs. Now, with this one, the order pairs are actually listed. So I've kind of spoiled you on that. So we would just start writing these again in order from least to greatest. So that would be -3, -2, 0, and 2. And then the range values would be -1, 0, 3, and 4. All right, let's take a look over here at this graph on problem 2. If your order pairs are not listed. So if we're going to put these in order from least to greatest, this is what you do. Remember, the domain represents the X values. So I'm going to look to the point furthest on the left side, which would be this one. And I draw a line through the x-axis. So that's -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will be at -6. And then this one, -2, -1. And then this one right here would go through the x-axis at 3. And this would go through the x-axis at 5. So we have 3 and 5. Now for the range, you're going to look at the point furthest below. So that would be this point right here. And you're going to draw a line through the y-axis. Remember, this is your y-axis. So that's at -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're going to have -6. And then the next highest point would be this one. So that would be -4. These are going to be the same. This is going to be the repeating. So remember, we only write it down one time. So it would be -1. And then this one up here, oops, goes through the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me erase that. That was kind of a bad line. So it goes through right there, which would be at 5. Now, could you go ahead and, do a table of values or write down your order pairs and then go from there? You bet. You can still do it that way. I just like doing it this way because it's easier to put it in order from least to greatest. But that is completely up to you. If you want to write down those order pairs and do it like problem number 1, you are more than welcome to do that. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. Now, these are continuous domain and range. So remember I talked about that and said that the continuous would be a solid line. So on this one, it says, what is the domain for the segment graph? So you're going to write it from smallest to largest. So domain is your x. So I'm going to draw a line down through my x-axis. So that will go through, these numbers are kind of wonky. It doesn't go right in between, but 1, 2, that would be at 3. So I'm going to put 3 here. And then the ending point is over here, and that would be at 12. So this is read as x is greater than or equal to 3 and less than or equal to 12. And notice that the points are closed in, so that's the reason for the line underneath the inequality. If those were open circles, then we wouldn't have the line. All right, so let's take a look now at the range. So now we take the lowest and draw that to the y-axis, which would be 6. And then the highest up here, we draw a line to the y-axis, and that would be 12. So you have y is greater than or equal to 6 and less than or equal to 12. So that includes all the decimal fraction numbers in between. They're not just whole numbers, but it includes all those other small numbers as well. All right, let's look on the back side and see what we can do with these to identify the domain and the range values. Okay, so on the domain, let's go back to my red color. So we're looking for, goes through the x-axis there, and this is continuous, and goes through the y-axis there. So this would be from -6 to 5, and the inequalities are going the same direction, and they have a line underneath it. Now, the range, the lowest part of the graph is at -4, and the highest part of the graph is at +4. So -4 to +4, those would have, the point is closed, so that would have a equal sign underneath the inequalities that are going the same direction. So y is greater than or equal to -4 and less than or equal to +4. All right, let's take a look here. We've got the domain. So I'm going to draw a line through the point. So it goes through at -4 and it goes through at +2. So -4 to 2, close circle, equal sign, and then my range value. Now then, the lowest part of the graph, it doesn't necessarily have to be a point. It's the part of the graph. And it has been points lately, but we'll be getting into other areas. So we always want to go with the part of the graph. So the lowest part of the graph here is -4. And the highest part up here, and these happen to be points, would be at 5. So even if it's a part of the graph, it's going to have an equal sign. So y values are greater than or equal to -4 and less than or equal to 5. All right, so let's take a look at number 3. Let's do the range since that's the color right now. So we're going to do the range, so it's going to go through the y value. So it's going to be here at 0. The highest part of the graph is at 7. All right, let's look at the domain. So the domain here is going to be at -6. Let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6. Now notice that does not have a closed circle to open circle. So therefore, there's not a line underneath this inequality right there. And then the one furthest to the right would go through at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is a point. So that would have a line underneath it. All right, let's look at number 4. Let's look at the domain. So it's going to go through -4 here and 9 here. So -4 to 9. And then the range, the lowest part of the graph would be -3. The highest part of the graph up here would be at 7. All right, let's look at number 5. The domain, we get to write this now. So we're going to do x, and our inequalities are going to go the same direction. All right, and then we'll put in our equal sign if we need it. So it would go through right there, which would be at -5. And that would have a line underneath it. And then the other furthest on the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, would not have a line underneath the inequality because it is an open circle. Okay, let's take a look at the domain. So we start off our variable y there, and our inequalities will go the same direction. So always make sure they're going that direction too, so we can read it as y is greater than and y is less than. So the lowest part of the graph would be through the origin, which is 0. And then the highest part of the graph is up here at, and by the way, that's going to have an equal sign underneath. And then the highest part will have an open circle, so we won't put a line underneath the inequality, and it is up there at 6. All right, now on number 6, this is just a little bit different because your domain, if you draw a line, the starting point is here. So that's going to go through at 0. But if you notice, there is an arrow, which means it goes forever one way. So there's not going to be an ending point. So right here, this is what your inequality is going to look like. So the domain would represent all x values greater than or equal to 0 because it's going to go indefinitely in one direction. The range is going to be the same thing. So this is what your inequality is going to look like. If I draw a line horizontally through the y-axis, it still goes to the origin. So there's not going to be an ending point. So therefore, it will be y is greater than or equal to 0. All right, let's take a look at 7. 7 we just did here. So this is real similar to some of the other ones. It's not like number 6. 6 and 8 are kind of the same. But number 7, it just goes back to just drawing a vertical line through the x-axis. So that's at -1. And a vertical line through the x-axis there, so that's 6. And that would have, right there, would not have a line underneath it. All right, and then here, your lowest point's -6 here, and then your highest point is at 1 there. And again, it does not have an equal sign underneath it. Okay? All right, now, let's look at number 8. So 6 and 8 are kind of similar to each other. So this says that the domain goes forever in one direction to the left. So if you draw a line, this is our only point that we can identify. If you draw a line through the x-axis, it goes through at 3. Now then, all these other points along that line are going to be less than or equal to 3. All right, let's take a look at the y values. And it all is because there is an arrow at the end. The range has a low point but goes up forever. So the lowest part of the graph is here at -4. And then if this is going to keep going up, 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 you're never going to have a highest point. So it'll be all y values that are greater than or equal to -4. Now you're going to practice some other problems on the next couple of pages yourself.